FG cautions OB against inciting violence. Police unseal Imo LP Secretariat. Defense HQ calls for calm amid video of UN military trucks in Edo State. And outside Nigeria, Senegal's president open to dialogue after tensions. And corruption trial of opposition leader Samura Kamara begins. Tonight, it's about a lot of the things that are happening on the social media space and the conversations that have dominated political conversations in the past few days and weeks here in Nigeria. Several issues have arisen in the aftermath of the February 25th and the March 18th elections, and now things may have taken a more dangerous turn. And also, there's one word that has been thrown around in the past few days, a word that is not to be taken lightly in a democratic country such as Nigeria. That word now is treason. I'll introduce my guests after this break, and the conversation right here on Politics HQ will kick off. I'm Tolulokpe Adeleru Balogun. Welcome to the show. And while we may have been expecting the APC Rivers governorship candidate Tonye Cole, right now we can tell you he is in a meeting with the state INEC officials. So unfortunately, he cannot make it for our conversation now, but we can confirm he is meeting with state INEC officials in Rivers State over the issues in which he has not been able to lay a hand or receive the certified true copy of the documents coming from the election. So that's why, unfortunately, he's unable to make this conversation. But I do have other gentlemen with me who will be doing definitely a great service to the conversations we hope to have tonight. Joining me, I have Dr. Jide Johnson. He's a public affairs analyst and media professional. And also joining him, I have Dr. Samson Osage, legal practitioner and chairman of the African Bar Association Nigerian Forum. Gentlemen, welcome to Politics HQ. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be with you, and good day to our viewers all over the world.
Thank you. All right, so I think we should start probably with the Rivers situation. We hope to have Tonye Cole with us live tomorrow, but it is a very developing situation right now. What we do know about it is that the APC and Tonye Cole have struggled for the past several days to lay their hands on the certified true copy of the documents emanating from the BVAS machines and the result sheets from the election in Rivers State. And he has said that he's been stopped from accessing the office of INEC. And there was really a lot of conversation about what would happen at the expiration of the 21 days as stipulated in the Electoral Act if he was unable to, of course, get his hands on those documents. But as I said earlier, he is currently meeting with INEC officials in the state right now. But in terms of that situation, Dr. Jide Johnson, let me start with you. What do we make of it? This basically a blockade, at least yesterday and possibly today, that stopped a candidate from being able to lay hands on the documents that were rightfully his to ask for.
I don't know what is really going on, because in the full view of camera and global camera focusing on Rivers State, we saw various attempts to prevent the opposition from having access to INEC office to go about doing what they are legally bound to do. And there has not been one single arrest to prevent that. And you see people taking laws into their hand, and you begin to wonder if
Dr. Johnson, I think you might need to unmute your audio. We were hearing you clearly, and then the audio just went off there. Quickly check that for us.
Okay. Well, I've done that. I just think that there's much more left for us to do with respect to this democracy. This is not a banana republic, and somebody should not assume that they only have monopoly of violence. There are rules and regulations, and there are state institutions. Those state institutions should do their job. It's the level of impunity and the level of rascality that we have witnessed in the last 2-3 days in Rivers State should not be happening in 2023 in a civilized society. This is not a jungle. This is a country that has laws, and I just can't. Not a single arrest, and these are not hidden faces. You have a situation whereby a chairman of a local government, and then the deputy speaker of his state is leading an assault on other fellow citizens? Hey, I don't know. I just can't comprehend this.
And with everything playing out, we know that Tonye Cole also implicated an inspector of police who also works in Rivers State, as well as being one of those involved potentially on the attack on the APC secretariat on the state. But beyond that, we now know that the chairman of the APC in Rivers State, Emeka Becky, has said that it's important that they relocate the election petition tribunal because of insecurity, because they don't feel like they would probably get a fair shot, and there'd be a lot of security situations coming up if that petition tribunal was to sit. What do you think about that at this point in time in Nigeria's democracy? 24 years of it, another election that we've had, having to relocate an election petition tribunal because of insecurity. Is it a reasonable request? Dr. Johnson.
Well, it's a reasonable request considering the experiences of the last 2 days and considering the reports concerning the election, the gubernatorial election in Rivers State. But there are some things that we need to put in proper perspective. Why do we need to get a court order before you could have access to certified true copy? There shouldn't be. I think that should be part of what should be before the 10th Assembly. The INEC should be, without a court order, should be made to be duty bound to provide certified true copy to anyone, to those that participated in the process within 48 hours after the release of the result. Now, you see, because most of justice delays, we say, is justice denied. A situation whereby there is a timeline and the expiration is this Thursday. If they are not able to file in their petition, how would they be able to get justice? If in any case they have any cause to seek justice, they have seen a deliberate attempt to truncate the process. And sometimes you begin to wonder which is INEC a party to impunity? Is INEC a party to truncating democratic process, the institution of democracy in Nigeria? Because if you are showing the visuals now, what is really going on? What you can't comprehend. I've still not been able to come to terms with what we have witnessed. If we can witness this in the state secretariat of INEC, what do you think will have happened in the polling units across the length and breadth of Rivers State? And some will come and say this is the freest and the fearless election we have ever had since 1999.
Dr. Sage, let me bring you in on this conversation. So we're quickly first looking at the issues in Rivers State that Tonye Cole has been very open about in the past few days. As I said earlier, he is now meeting with the state's INEC officials right now, which is why, unfortunately, he's unable to join us. But when we look at everything playing out and now the request of the chairman of the APC in Rivers to move the election petition tribunal, how do you see things that are happening in Rivers State?
Well, it's unfortunate, like my friend has just said. For every democratic process in the electoral process, there are rules and there are guidelines. Inspection of materials is one of those statutory provision of the Electoral Act, which every litigant before the election petition is entitled to carry out at the INEC office. And I want to blame institutional challenges to INEC on this point. And I believe that INEC should not be inhibited in any way in carrying out that responsibility of availing any litigant, any election petition litigant who comes before it for any reason. The situation in Rivers State that we are seeing, I also believe that the security agencies are not able to do their job. Of course, you know, INEC is not a prosecuting agency, it's not a law enforcement agency. I believe that security apparatus in the state must do their job and enable secure INEC office and the environs to enable them to do what they have to do. But if it becomes necessary, I don't think that there's anything wrong, you know, with moving the tribunal out of Rivers State. It has happened before. In any case, the current governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, had his election petition decided in Abuja between him and Dr. Peter Said Taku. So I believe that there are always options, which I think that the parties who feel aggrieved should explore, and it is important because justice delayed is justice denied. And if this will lead to denial of justice to those who have filed, who want to file and challenge the election petition, I think the authorities need to do something about it. It is not a healthy situation, though, it is something that INEC and the security agencies must quickly tackle and do their job. That's my position on this.
So, gentlemen, you've both used justice delayed is justice denied. I'll quickly ask this before we move on from Rivers. It seems that every election cycle, Rivers State is one of those states where we've gone to the point where we anticipate some level of violence. Is there a more local or contextual sort of thing that's happening in Rivers State that we simply don't seem to understand in terms of why Rivers State finds it so easy oftentimes to descend into these issues of violence and clashes when it comes to governance, politics, even elections? Dr. Johnson.
Well, like you said, for us to put it in context, is because people have not been held accountable. There has not been a single prosecution of those that have committed electoral violence in Rivers State, and the stakes are high. The easiest access for people to becoming rich is only in Nigeria, that when people get into public office, they become even richer than the states. They become richer than they were before they assume public office. So you could see that the stakes are high, and then everybody wants to partake of the cookie jar. And we have not held anyone accountable. And that's why when you don't apply your laws, you see people breaking the laws at will, and that's what we have witnessed over the years in Rivers State. You've seen a situation whereby there have been counter accusation between the present governor and the military, and like the barrister said, it's just that the security agencies should do their job. Over the weekend, they were quick to arrest people in an hotel because they got a petition and a tip-off. Why were they not able to gather the intelligence to prevent this from happening? That is ridiculous, except that it is a clear indication that either some people are closing their eyes from what is happening, or some are folding their arms and not taking responsibility for what we have required them to do as a state and a nation.
Okay, Dr. Asage, before we move from here, 21 days is the timeline that individuals have to contest election results. Tonye Cole had spoken about the fact that his 21 days would elapse on Thursday or Friday, but also had mentioned that those who were protesting said they would continue to protest at the state INEC offices until that day, almost making it impossible for him to collect the certified true copies. Is this something we need to really look at in terms of the aftermath of elections? Because Cole had also said he was willing to go to the chairman of INEC in order to get the CTC from him, but 21 days, does that sound just about right? Because I also don't think when we were writing this and amending the Electoral Act, no one thought that there would be an attempt to block a candidate from getting those certified true copies. Is this something we should look at in terms of the manner of getting these copies across to the interested or the participating parties?
Well, 21 days to file election petition for governorship election from the time the election is conducted is about 3 weeks. And we are now beginning to see that there could be reasons why there might be necessity for an amendment. I believe that the drafters of the Constitution or the drafters of the Electoral Act that has prescribed 21 days within which an election petition litigant is to file is to enable the quick dispensation of justice and issues, involved in election petition. And another instance, which is almost likened to a force majeure, I mean, it was not contemplated by the drafters of the Constitution or of the Electoral Act that there could be a situation where a particular aspect of the process will not be achieved by the kind of things that is going on, demonstration and all of that. Then there might be need to look at whether the 21 days is sufficient or not. But don't forget that under Section 285, subsection 5 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the court or the election petition tribunal has 180 days within which to deliver judgment after an election petition has been filed. So I believe that the drafters of the law were of the view that there is need for quick dispensation, and that is why the 21 days window has become very important. By and large, I think that Tonye Cole may still be able to have his way to file his petition within time. I'm sure he does have copies of the election result from the various units in the states. But if he doesn't have, then it's necessary for him to get these certified true copies from INEC. So it's a little bit of a challenge for him and his political party in this regard. I think with time, there might be need to look at a review of the 21 days window to file an election petition.
All right, so the situation with the APC candidate in Rivers State, Tonye Cole, is one that is continuing to develop. It really came to the fore yesterday with that attack apparently on him and some of the party leadership. And today, as I told you, he is speaking with state INEC officials right now. But there was another situation that developed over the weekend, and this is according to a leaked audio, a conversation that supposedly held between the PDP, Labour Party, I beg your pardon, the Labour Party's presidential candidate, Peter Obi, and a religious leader here in Nigeria, the general overseer of the Living Faith Worldwide, and that's Bishop David Oyedepo. So in the past few weeks, we've seen a lot of things come out on social media. It was also last week we heard from the DSS that they did have credible evidence that there were people who were involved in planning an interim government in Nigeria. When we look at sort of the situations that are building, and I'm trying to take us back before we get to the latest situation now today, we see just a lot of things. Nigerians being inundated with so many accusations and counter accusations and accusations of hitting up the polity. But a lot of this is coming from politicians. Dr. Johnson, if we look at the events of the past 1 or 2 weeks with the DSS's warning, with the alleged audio, which the Labour Party has now said is a deep fake as well, what do you think that says about our democracy? What do you think that says about the credibility of the elections that we just held?
Well, for me, I just think that the media has always joined in creating tension within the society. One, let's talk about the leaked audio. It was meant to be before the election. So what impact did that leaked audio have on the election based on the outcome which we have gotten? Why is it now that they are raising that particular issue? Is it further to cause division within the Nigerian society or further to annihilate a particular candidate? Whether we like it or not, if you listen to Fela Nicola Akukuti, he said a long time ago that religion is politics. And then we know that religion is a critical component part of how we take decisions when it comes to politics in Nigeria. So it's not peculiar to Labour Party. All of the parties try to assuage to the feelings of their religious divide in order to amass the vote. And the media, because of click and bait, we also join in highlighting this, and even international media like BBC went ahead and translated it to Hausa and shared, understanding the dynamics and the nature of Nigerian society, and you are sharing that in this. What are you trying to achieve? Because the election has come and it has gone. And as far as I'm concerned, all of the parties are involved in this. Even it has eaten deep to every aspect of our lives, even every aspect of our national life. For people to become vice chancellors, for people to be directors in the ministry, these are some of the areas in which they appeal to all of these in order to outsmart or outmaneuver whoever is competing with them for a particular post. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a common feature in our politics, and the election has come. Then why are people raising dust over this particular issue? There are different types of audios across the divide, across the faith. There are meetings that were held in State House in northern Nigeria where governors gathered clerics together and they were talking about the election, and they said they are going to vote on the basis of the election, on the basis of Muslim ticket, on the basis of faith. So it's nothing new, but it is what it is, because people, we always focus on what they want to focus on. They always highlight what they want to highlight on. And that's the other side of agenda setting. So we put prominence on which aspect we want to put prominence on, and we direct the narrative, and then the people will take it. But as far as I'm concerned, it's just a click and bait strategy.
Yeah, and that's also what the Labour Party has said, that it's a strategy to distract from, of course, the court case in which they want to challenge the presidential results. Dr. Osage, politics, religious sentiment, some might say parochial sentiment as it may be, a country that is 24 years into its democracy, still looking to figure out issues around inclusion and intersectionality. What do you think, where do you think we are when we are still at a situation where some might even say the audio was meant to be a dog whistle for some people in terms of the language used, supposedly with Obi mentioning a religious war. But when you see it and you look at it, and then the fact that Labour Party is saying, no, this is a deep fake and this is a distraction, where do you think our democracy is when we're still finding ourselves mired in situations like this?
Well, for me, I think that what we heard from that leaked video is also part of our fault lines that a foremost political contestant was trying to explore, and that is the truth of the matter. You can say, well, he was looking for votes. He could go to anywhere to ask for vote, but there are issues that contradict the personality of the person making such a statement in the secret when the impression is given out there that he is such a patriotic Nigerian who believes in a country devoid of some of those sentiments. Because, like my friend said, Jide said, it's difficult to devote politics from religion or even ethnicity in our own local parlance. But the truth of the matter is that if any person should continue to exploit our natural fault lines, which are ethnicity, religion, then the implication is that a government that is eventually found on such a foundation will have a serious challenge, running on a very divided pedestal. So I believe that though it was meant to enhance the chances of the contestant in that election, it has already come and gone, and evidence have shown now that it didn't quite help after all. But I think that as politicians, there is every need for us at every point in time to stick to the rules, because even the Electoral Act made it abundantly clear that issues of religion and ethnicity should not form the fulcrum for any campaign. So it amounts to even an electoral offense to campaign exploring religious and ethnic fault lines. So we shouldn't allow this happen. We should begin to develop, even though we agree that our political culture is still at the rudimentary stage. We have not grown to such a level. I mean, in advanced democracies, you can only hear people speak of real issues. But the truth of the matter is that even at that level, people still exploit their natural fault lines, and that is why in the US, you are not going to find the Hispanics and the blacks, likely to go the way of the white supremacists. Those fault lines still exist, but it is something that we must reduce to the barest minimum and allow issues of governance. I mean, what are the basic necessities of life for the citizen? How can we make a governance model better in such a way that the citizen have a good standard of living? And these are issues that neither religion nor ethnicity, can help in any way. But politicians will always exploit it in order to gain advantage in a political contest. So there are these are issues that are threats to our democratic consolidation in this country. And we cannot deny that they still exist. But the rules ought to be applied to the letter in such a way that politicians do not exploit them in order to gain political advantage.
To build on that conversation, but that will be after the break, because now today, one word is bringing about a lot of sentiments in democracy, and it's a word that many people don't want to hear often. That word is treason. And one of the presidential candidates of the just concluded elections has been accused of just that. We'll get into the accusations against Peter Obi on treason and insurrection after the break.